It's a question we've been asking forever, right? We look up at that little red dot in the sky and we wonder. Well, today, that's not just science fiction anymore. It's actually one of the biggest questions in all of science. So let's dive into the real scientific search for life on Mars.
So let's just get right to it. This is the big one, the question that fuels these incredible multi-billion-dollar missions and the entire careers of thousands of scientists. Is there or was there ever life on Mars?
Okay, so the short answer? No. As of right now, we have not found confirmed evidence of life. But, and this is a huge but, that is so not the end of the story. See, not having proof isn't the same as proving it's not there. In fact, everything we've found so far just makes the hunt that much more exciting.
To really get what this search is all about, we have to be clear on what scientists are actually looking for. So you can forget the little green men. The real hunt is for something way, way smaller. And here's why. Just look at Mars today. It is an unbelievably tough place to live. It's freezing cold, the surface is bone dry, and its atmosphere? It's less than 1% as thick as ours here on Earth. Plus, with no global magnetic field to protect it, the surface gets blasted with powerful radiation. Any complex life we can imagine just couldn't make it there. But, and this is where it gets really good, Mars wasn't always like this, not even close. The real key to the whole search for life isn't the Mars we see today, but the Mars that existed billions of years ago.
Look at this. You're basically looking at two totally different planets. Ancient Mars. It was warm, it was wet, it had a nice thick atmosphere to hold in heat, and it even had a magnetic field to shield it from all that nasty solar radiation. In one word, it was habitable. That ancient, almost Earth-like Mars, that's the real target of our search.
So what was it about ancient Mars that made it so promising? Well, it really all boils down to one critical ingredient, the exact same one that's essential for every living thing here on Earth. And of course, that ingredient is liquid water. And the evidence that Mars used to be covered in it? Oh, it's overwhelming. We have pictures of ancient dried-up river valleys from orbit. Our rovers on the ground have literally found minerals like clays that can only form in water. And we know for a fact there are gigantic ice caps and even buried glaciers just waiting under the surface. Mars was once a water world.
Okay, so water is huge, but it's not the whole shebang. You also need a source of energy and the right chemical parts. Well, guess what? Ancient Mars had those too. It had active volcanoes providing plenty of heat and energy, and it had all the essential chemical elements, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, the works, all the things you need to build life. All the ingredients were in the pot.
So if ancient Mars had everything it needed, how in the world do we actually look for signs of life from billions of years ago? Well, you have to think of it like a giant planetary detective story. The very first clue the detectives look for are things called organic molecules. These are just the carbon-based molecules that are the literal building blocks for life. Now hold on, finding these doesn't automatically mean we found life. They can be made in other ways too, but it's a critical first step. You can't have life without them. And the really cool part? Our rovers have already found these in Martian rocks. But to really solve the case, you need the definitive proof. You need what scientists call a biosignature. This is the smoking gun. It could be a really complex chemical or a fossil-like structure or some pattern in the rock that's just really hard to explain with just geology or chemistry. Think of it like finding an ancient carving on Mars. That's the kind of thing that would change everything.
So here's the game plan for how rovers like Perseverance actually do this. First, they go to a spot that looks like it was once a great place for life, like an old river delta. Then, they drill down past the radiated surface to get a clean sample. They analyze that sample right there on Mars, looking for those organic clues and hopefully a biosignature. And this is the really important part. They are collecting and storing the absolute best samples to one day bring them back home to Earth for study.
So, the search for past life is totally in full swing. But this leads us to the most mind-blowing question of all, doesn't it? Is it possible that something is still alive on Mars right now?
And it's wild? The answer is, yeah, it's possible. But we're not talking about anything crawling on the surface. If life is still hanging on today, it would almost have to be tiny microbes, and they'd have to be hidden deep underground, totally shielded from the cold and radiation, maybe just sipping on pockets of underground water. And that right there is a big part of why this is so darned hard. Mars is a whole planet. We've only explored a few tiny little patches with a handful of robots. Any evidence from billions of years ago is going to be incredibly faint, and if life is hiding underground, well, we just haven't been able to drill deep enough to find it yet. The scale of this challenge is just immense.
Which brings us to the biggest question of all. So let's just imagine for a second. We do it. A sample comes back to Earth. Scientists put it under a microscope, and they confirm it. They find a biosignature. What would that actually mean for all of us?
I'm not exaggerating when I say this. It would be, without a doubt, the single greatest scientific discovery in all of human history, period. Finding life, even tiny microbial life, on another world would change absolutely everything we think we know about our place in the universe.
Just try to wrap your head around what that means for a second. It would prove that life wasn't some 1 in a trillion miracle that only happened here. If it happened twice, right here in our own solar system, right next door, well, that would suggest that life might be common, that the universe is probably full of it. It would force us to rewrite our biology books and ask some really deep new questions about who we are.
And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? A discovery like this wouldn't be the end of the story. It wouldn't be the final answer. It would be the beginning of a whole new chapter for science, for exploration, and for humanity. So, as our little robotic explorers keep digging away on that red world, the question is still out there for us to think about. If we finally get the answer, and it turns out we're not alone, what do you think the next, most important question would be?